Hey everyone, welcome back. I know my face looks huge in this view right now, so we'll get that squared away here in just a moment. But I'm on live with Veronica Jeans, e-commerce expert and mentor, myself, Claudia Sheridan, digital marketing strategist and coach, and we are talking about the essentials in business and just everything that you need to have in place in there. Where there is a part 1 to this broadcast. So you're going to see that over on either Claudia Sheridan 1 or Veronica Jeans Mentors page on Facebook. But we're going to continue on. Veronica, before we got interrupted with technical glitches, can you tell me again, go back and explain to me again the importance of having agreements in place and the example that you used about the client, the $5,000 client?
Yes. So in e-commerce, that comes totally from the customer side, So as an e-commerce owner, what you have to do is make sure that you have a lot of agreements in place. You've got to make sure you've got agreements with your vendors. Make sure that you follow all their requirements step for step. You make sure that you cover CYA, cover your butt, CYB, cover your butt. When you have the how people use your product and what you cover and what your warranty is, and then when you are using images for your website, your products, you do not want to just willy-nilly use any image, because I had a client that used an image in one of her products, and she does puzzles, so she smacked it onto the puzzle and she promoted it. And the photographer sued her for $5,000. So she used his image in a commercial, and so she had to pay it. So do not use anybody's photos unless they agree or there's a license that says you can use it commercially. And that means websites, brochures, and everything. A lot of people just use images because they think they can use anything on Google, right? And that's it. I mean, this was his business. He would put his photos out there, and then people would use them, and then he would sue them. It's neat business, making $5,000.
Well, I mean, that's so important. I was sitting here, sorry if I was distracting. I was sitting here making sure our settings were all set up, and I think I've got it all now. But that is so huge, because like this photographer, that is his business. He's got a copyright in place. He's known for that, and he was able to prove that it was his original source. And so, different ways to get around that as an entrepreneur is that, yeah, you can use other people's stuff, but you can only use it with permission. Yes. So, I have, for example, I've been quoted in a magazine from Idea Fitness, and it's a fitness journal, and it's a publication that's available in print, and then the online publication is only available to their members, and the one that's in print is only available to their subscribers. Yes. So how am I supposed to get that out to people and make sure that I'm able to use that, like in my own marketing portfolio? And so what I did was contacted the Fitness Journal and asked them, do I have your permission to link to this or to use this? And they responded with, you can't use it online because it is gated content for our members, but you can use it if you can use the reprints of it. So I had the rights to make a copy of it. And as long as I put on the copy the specific disclaimer. And so, whether it's CYA or CYB, you got to protect your hide. And as an entrepreneur, I mean, surely I definitely want to showcase that. But also I want to make sure that it's, that I'm protected so that they don't come back and find me afterwards.
Yes.
Right?
And things like trademarks or copyrights. On your products. If you really don't want people to pinch your images, you should have them. You put some
watermarks.
Thank you. Yes, the watermark on there, right? But so and that is how you protect yourself online from an e-commerce standpoint. But as I was saying, if you're in e-commerce and you're selling stuff to people, you will have the customers that will get that charge back because they say, hey, you didn't deliver, or it's damaged, or they don't like it. And some of them make a business of it. They'll buy something they know that the e-commerce person or the owner doesn't have a leg to stand on, and they'll say, well, just leave it, and I'll give you your money back.
And
although
and that's almost, that's almost like that old, or what was it, Sex in the City with Carrie Bradshaw. I don't know if it was that group of women, but there's definitely like the movie Shopaholic. I mean, for all of my ladies out there who are familiar with these chick flicks, it's very common in a movie to watch them go to the store, keep the tag on, wear it, and then return it. And the store is like, okay, and they end up taking it back. And so, I think you make an excellent point that there are people that make a living doing that, buying things and returning it. And likewise, unfortunately, I think in the service industry, there are people who also do that. They want to make sure that they get all of your expertise. They want to make sure they have your help. They want to make sure they do that. And then all of a sudden they'll claim non-delivery because it wasn't, the outcomes weren't what was expected, even though the service was provided.
Yes.
And, so they're judging based on oftentimes even their lack of execution.
Exactly.
And we're paying for it.
And some of the stuff, I mean, I do a lot of mentoring and coaching. Some of this stuff is priceless. I mean, you can't stick a price on advice that you're giving verbally if you're seeing the customer and they see they're doing something wrong, and you help them and you help them develop their whole idea or give them more ideas. You don't document stuff like that, right? So when somebody else comes in and looks at what you've delivered, they go, well, what did she do? So, but mentoring and helping and coaching that person to where they are, and they wouldn't have been there if you hadn't helped them. That is something that it gets taken advantage of.
So much. I mean, it's so interesting because I read once, and I've read it multiple times on different people's postings, and I've read in articles as well, that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert or to be coined an expert. And I worked it out one time, and at the time that I had worked, that was about 2 years ago, I had over 50,000 hours invested in doing what I do, which is pretty much play on the internet and market online. 50,000 hours. And somebody and I had commented that on a post in this group, and someone commented, and they said, oh, that's 17 years. That's not possible. And I'm like, no, yeah, actually it is possible. The internet came out so and so year, and I've been doing this ever since. And so, yes, it is absolutely possible. And yet, oftentimes, when you're sharing your expertise and you're sharing that with clients, and don't get me wrong, I mean, Veronica and I want nothing more than for small businesses to succeed, because we're small businesses ourselves.
Yes.
And yet for someone to say that the information that they provided, was not a use or wasn't delivered, or even the product, wasn't what they expected. I got it. It wasn't what they expected. Why not talk to the merchant in this case? If you buy something online, I would hope that they would try and reach out with your clients and first and say, hey, that pet rock I got, it wasn't quite the size I thought it was going to be. Or, it didn't cuddle back. And so can you please either send me a new one, or maybe we can work it out.
Yes.
But we find that isn't the case. And copyright, I want to jump back to copyright really quick, because if you are a photographer or you're utilizing copyright stuff, you need to make sure that you are also protected and that you're using things, it's so easy. I know so many people that will go onto Google and they'll just do a Google search. And I'm thinking of a couple people in mind. And so if you're watching, just know I love you, but I am thinking about you, that go to Google every morning and they type a subject in and they go to the images and they grab an image and they post it on Facebook. Ooh. And then they're like, hey, and they'll even tell you, was searching Google this morning for an image and this is what I came across. And it's like, no, how can you do that? You are, I mean, some people will say, okay, well, it's marketing. I mean, how many times have you gotten approached for free marketing?
Yes.
I get it, but blatantly, openly using someone's stuff without permission is not free marketing. It's theft.
No, it is. And people don't realize it. And I actually had an office with employees. Never have those again. But, people don't think about it. Talking about theft and protecting yourself, I mean, people will take home a pen and it's part of the company and they think the company owes it to them, you know. And so if you're a small business, you have that attitude, your employees have that attitude to you as well, because then they work for you, and whatever's lying around, their little fingers can go, oh, I'll take this home and I'll use it at home, you know. So you also got to be aware of I mean, you can't lock everything away, right? But be aware of that's what's happening, right? So, yeah, I had my one company closed down, and the receptionist got a suitcase, brought a suitcase to work. I was out at the time, put all the stationery in, all the typing material, and schlepped it to her car.
Oh my gosh!
Emptied the stationery cabinet. I was like, you didn't stop her? And everybody said no. So yeah, she walked out with a suitcase. I mean, that is just crazy, right?
Yeah.
But you and then, you know, having a company, you got to protect yourself from, you know, your lease, where you've got your offices. Now, most of the time, e-commerce people are on a boat at home, right? So yeah, right. So, but if you have an office or you have a warehouse, you've got to be very aware of what you're allowed to do in that warehouse, what you're not allowed to do. For instance, we were actually talking about this morning in what did I have this morning? Open office hours. And my little boutique lady said one of her vendors, she's not allowed to sell online.
Right.
Right? But she can put it online. She's just not put that buy button on there. Isn't that crazy? So but you got to adhere to it. Otherwise, they can take that whole line away from her.
And that's so important because, I'm hearing a little echo, but it's maybe going away. That's so important because there's a lot of our friends and people in our programs and things like that are involved with direct marketing. And when you're working with these, and I know, I mean, they call them different things. And so if I'm using a term that offends, please know that that's not my intent. You know, because I've heard them as multi-level marketing, I've heard it as direct marketing, I've heard as, you know, pyramid marketing, whatever it is. If you know who you are and whatever you want to call it. But they do have their own regulations and rules with regards to what governs their marketing.
Yes.
And so, you know, if that is the business you're getting yourself into, you need to know what those things are, because oftentimes we think, well, it's just so much easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. But like, I have a friend who's in the insurance industry, and I've worked with him. I've coached him on, you know, a lot of his social media things and things like that. And I was talking to him on Friday, and he said, you know what? He goes, he had met with somebody who said, can we just, they had asked him to do an interview for a print magazine, and they wanted him as the expert person, right? So one person may think, oh my God, what a great, fantabulous opportunity. Yeah. Whereas my friend was like, I can't do that.
No.
Because the company I work for says everything must be approved. It says this, it says that.
Yes.
So he goes, it's actually a lot more hassle than what it's worth. And so you need to, and the editor of the magazine said, you know, can't we just ask for forgiveness? And he was like, no. He goes, you can ask for forgiveness. I'll lose my business. I'll lose my license.
Yeah. And insurance, finance, anything in the financial or HIPAA, all that stuff, you've got to be so careful what you are putting online and what you don't. Totally agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
And then also, you know, you're talking about the direct marketing. So they have to be so careful about if they can do it online, what they can do online, can they have their own pages, and so you can have your own page, but you can't put their products on or something like that. Can you use the vendor's images, right?
Right.
What type of images can you use? You know, so you've got to make sure that all those little details when you're actually sourcing for products that you do know and realize. I mean, it's so easy. I just had an inquiry.
Those foreigners with those words.
An inquiry about somebody in South Africa wants to sell pens and pencils and all the art paraphernalia, and he's got four 4 vendors that he wants to, I don't know whether he has contact with them or not, we're still in the beginning stages, but, and that's exactly what I said to him. You've got to know, you've got to have a contact, you've got to know what you are selling. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to sell your products, not even talk to that person, sell the products, and then buy the products, by the way, right? You can get into a lot of trouble like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, for those of you that are just now joining us, you are on with Veronica James, e-commerce expert and mentor, and myself, Claudia Sheridan, digital marketing strategist and coach. And we're talking about the essentials in business. And so it's really focused on all of our entrepreneurial friends who are either starting out or in the business now and are trying to figure out maybe some things you need to have in place, you need to be aware of almost prior to starting your business, that what parameters you can work within. And there's a saying that I love and kind of like I live by, and there's a lot of structure and there's a lot of freedom in structure.
Yes.
And structure is only attainable when you know what the rules are. Now, I'm not saying, hey, play by every single rule. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that if you know what the rules are, then you know how much leniency you have to play with, and how you can utilize those rules to your favor. So I want to jump into again some maybe some of the more basic things like your website and branding. I know that a lot of businesses, when they start off, they get hung up on oh my gosh, I'm gonna call my business, but that's not the perfect name. And there's another saying that I love, which I have adopted as one of my mottos of last year, the year before, which is done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And a lot of, people don't necessarily go that route, which is interesting because I'm a Virgo. And so I do like things perfect.
Yes.
But there's, a lot of people get hung up on, I must have a name, I must have a website, I must have this, I must have that. All these must-haves, kind of like a task, check-off list, which there's a lot of truth to that. And yet, there's not. So, Veronica, what is your opinions on things that people must have when they get started, and maybe things they can add in later on as they establish a bit more, kind of like if there was a blueprint or a framework, if you will.
Yes.
What would that look like?
So starting right from the beginning, when you decide, or if you have decided, you've got to go back and look how you've set up your company. That's the first thing. So you can set up your company as a DBA, which is in your county, right? But it doesn't protect you from anything. So if you are, for instance, a business that you are a service business, right? Somebody can sue you and can take your house away. Except in Texas, apparently, they're not allowed to take your house away. But I don't know.
Texas is a whole other country. So, that's the Republic of Texas.
I know, right? So, I don't know any of the other states. But if you just have a DBA, a sole proprietor, you are not protected.
And when you say protected, what do you mean by that word? Protected from what?
From somebody suing you.
For using their name or for whatever?
Using their name, not doing the services, your product is not right. So they, give a lawyer a reason and they will be on it, right?
That's
right?
So
right?
true. That's
exactly.
true. And thank you for that clarification, because I think a lot of times, knowing how you're going to set your business up is extremely important. And, a lot of people work within the sole proprietorship and they've worked that way for years and it works out fine for them. You just need to make sure that if you're going to be a sole proprietor, that is something that will work for you, or at the very least to maybe get you started, but know that there is a next step that you need to work towards.
Especially when you're selling something. So if you're selling, say, for instance, something that people ingest or put on their skin or hands or body, even if you're selling kid stuff, right? There's a kid that swallows something that is part of your product, you can get sued, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah.
You have to protect yourself, and it's so worth it. It's so worth it. So this is every time I've set up a company, this is what I've done. I've gone to a business lawyer, and you can hire them by the hour. So what you do is, this is a good tip, you write down all the questions you have. you make sure when you get there's no chit-chatting because he's charging you an arm and a leg, and you ask him all the questions that you need, right? And then you know what to do.
Yeah.
And then you literally know what to do instead of asking a friend, asking this guy that knows, asking your accountant. He's not a business lawyer. He knows how to set up your accounts, but he's not a business lawyer.
Or asking Facebook. I mean, I see people asking Facebook for legal advice all the time, or God forbid, medical advice. I see medical advice on Facebook all the time as well.
No, all the time. All the time. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. So you just, and the foundation of your company is so important, because what if you are growing and then you get to a point when you go, okay, now I need employees. Now you're getting into a different realm of, and it goes very quickly, you know, from one step to the next. You can get 3 or 4 large customers. Then you need either vendors that will help you in the service industry, right? And then you need to protect yourself as well if you're working with somebody else, tax-wise, by the way, as well. And then you need to make sure that, you know, that if you have an employee, that you protected with your employee as well, right? That you know exactly what you're getting into. But if you're not set up at the base, then you're starting to scramble, right? So why not do it? Just a little bit of investment in the beginning is so worth it. I mean, believe me, I used to hire him by the hour, and I used to network with this guy. Hire him by the hour, have all my questions ready, long, full scrap sheet of paper, and ask all the questions. Say, okay, that's the hour. Now I can chat to your other lady.
Right, totally. I mean, and if you don't know a business, you know, if you don't know a business attorney, I mean, you can always go to the Small Business Development Center. You know, your local college usually has something. There are services out there that I'm not going to mention, but that I have used in the past that have helped me out quite a bit. I mean, to me, it was better than having nothing.
Yeah, Score is free.
There you go. Score is a great one. I mean, you know, I sat there and so quickly to escalate. I mean, you mentioned about how quickly things can escalate and protecting yourself. You know, just with the example that I had shared earlier, and for those of you joining in, this was on the first part of the session, but long story short, a client is unhappy because I'm not doing additional services that are not within scope. And when I offered to do them for the quote, he got ticked off and issued a chargeback. And so, you know, now it's a situation I'm actively dealing with, but I consulted an attorney to say, hey, look at my agreement. I mean, could he come after me for this? Do I really have to do this work that he seems to think that you know, I was contracted to do? And, you know, the response I got was, no, you're good. You provided everything. It's not within your agreement. You are well within your agreement. You know, he's in violation. And so, I mean, it literally escalated like that, you know.
Happened to me as well, by the way.
Yeah, things happen, and when they happen fast.
Yeah.
You know,
and you go, what? Really? What happened? We were friends yesterday. You were best buddy yesterday. Right?
Everybody. I used to work in this industry, and I have clients in this industry actually now, but I used to work in this industry that was fire, water, cleanup, and restoration. So it was emergency services for like floods in your home or fire in your home, things like that. And, you know, it was so interesting because we would come in and we were everyone's best friend. And of course we were, you know, for those of you that are totally going to date myself, but Chicken Little was a cartoon in the mornings. I don't know if you guys had it, Veronica, or not, but Chicken Little growing up was a cartoon on Saturday mornings. It was actually a little commercial that would go through, and Chicken Little was a little chicken who would go around and would start screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Like no matter what happened, the sky was falling. And it was so, you know, I started calling it the Chicken Little syndrome, because Chicken Little is when something happens and all of a sudden your world crumbles. And in that industry, everybody was Chicken Little when they called us, because one of their largest investments now had damage in it. And we were the experts that basically had to turn around and say, no, it's not, the sky isn't falling. We're here to hold it up for you. You know, we're here to take care of it for you. And, you know, I know Veronica does this with her clients. I do it with my clients. You know, if there's any issues with their marketing, you know, and everything is a crisis. First of all, there are no marketing crises. Just so you know. I mean,
there's always a crisis. There's always a crisis.
There's always a crisis, but it's not an emergency. I mean, there should have been enough checks and balances in place prior to know. But if you're doing your marketing, you're not checking with somebody first to double check and just to make sure it's okay, then you might have chicken little syndrome. But the point being is that when it becomes that crisis, things go quick.
Yes,
right?
Very quick. Very
we don't
quick.
want to have that. Now, Veronica, we're about, we have about 20 minutes left and we haven't even talked about your program yet. I know you're working on something fantastic to really help people out in the e-commerce world. And, can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what does that look like?
So one of the things I'm working on is giving assessments to Shopify stores or any e-commerce store, because, you look at these stores and they go, why don't we have sales? And there's so much wrong with this store. I mean, and there's basic stuff, right? Basic stuff that they can fix very quickly. So I do give assessments, and then, and the exciting part is I'm going to start a boot camp.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Saying,
so we're going to get your store in shape, right?
Right. So, and it's all about, again, it's all about the basics, right? The basics of your business, because, and these basics are more like your goals and what you want to earn, and your revenue roadmap, and just literally having a plan. When I ask my customers, did you write it down? They go, no, it's here.
and I mean, that goes right back into the essentials in business, is having some type of plan in place, because, I know that when I started my business, it literally was from one day to the next like kind of when I pressed the go. But it was something that I had in mind, that I had been formulating, and I had kind of a structure in place on how I wanted to do this. And, I firmly believe that because I had that I've gotten to where I am today and have been able to be profitable every year, because I know so many businesses, and I imagine in the service industry, first of all, especially in my business, in digital marketing, I can't tell you how many social media managers pop up literally overnight. It's like they quit their job and drive home and go, hey, I'll just do that for a living.
Exactly.
And, that's great, wonderful, kudos to you on that. But there's so much more that goes into it. And I know that when it comes to e-commerce, we read an email that comes in and says, open your Shopify store, and bam, and all of a sudden you have a store.
Yes.
And you don't know what to do. You have no guidance, and you're like, why isn't it working?
Yes. And the big, when we're talking about setting it up properly, is the GDPR that just happened in Europe, In America, everybody goes, well, we don't have to worry about it. Yes, you do, because you have somebody from Europe popping onto your website. You can be in deep trouble,
And even in California, I mean, Veronica, for those that don't know, she's Texas-based. I'm currently California-based. And in California, just in July, passed a bill that's basically said that if you offer any type of services in California, so shocker, I don't care if you're in Maine, if you have clients in California, and someone buys it and they subscribe to your service, if you have a subscription-based service and they subscribe to your service online, you must also have an easy way for them to unsubscribe from your service that doesn't require them, for them to call you or follow up with a phone call. You need to know those things.
Yeah, there's so much happening right now because of the GDPR. Now everybody was sort of skirting around the safety thing and the privacy thing, and I see so many, even just websites. I mean, you used to have a website, used to have terms and conditions or terms of service on your privacy policy and this stuff. You see websites with nothing. I see e-commerce stores with nothing, and I go, how do you do this? How do you protect yourself? And then also, we were talking about protecting yourself.
Yes. And your essentials in business, everything you need to get started with your business.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, just if you got to get the basis ready, so that if you have those things in place, and somebody says to you, hey, you've used my information on your website, what do you do with it? You've got to come back to them, and so California is the beginning, right? Everybody else is going to fall into place. I had another question from a client. She says, I'm not charging taxes. What's happening? Calm down. It's not happening yet, but times are changing. Yeah. We will be charging taxes on everything in every state. Yep. It sounds very scary, but it's not that scary, right?
It's not when you have the basics in place. It's extremely scary and overwhelming in whether you're a service-based or a product-based type of business. It's extremely scary if you really start without a structure. But once you have a foundation in place, then it's just a matter of building upon it, as long as you don't neglect it, because there can come to a point where you haven't touched anything for years, and now you're in a whole new ballgame.
And one thing I've discovered with the sales tax thing is that it's you got to really, when you're starting a service-based business, right? You got to know if you have to pay sales tax on your services in your little county or not, because you could be having, and that there's like, what did I read the other day? The hairdresser in Louisiana can do something if she does this and not that, then she doesn't have to pay taxes. In Texas, she has to pay taxes on every single services she charges. So every single thing is different. So you got to make sure that you got all your checks and balances in place, and you got to do this before you get into trouble, right? So one tip. So you could get into trouble with sales tax, right? So you get somebody by accident or not pays you $2.64 for Washington State sales tax. Mm-hmm. You better send $2.64 to the Washington State, otherwise they will nail your butt.
Yeah, I mean, and someone always told me, it was so interesting, it's fascinating to me because, California is, it's an interesting, I don't want to get into the whole politics of it, but there's a lot of fines in California and whatever, and I don't know what they do with the money. But what I can tell you is that I've worked with a lot of people that I'll ask them, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have this in place? Like, and they'll say no, and I'll be like, did you know that there is this type of infraction, or there's this type of penalty that you can incur? And they're like, yeah, but I'm not going to get caught, so it doesn't really matter, or they don't enforce it. And my response to them is, whereas that may be the case, how would you feel if you were the example? What if you were that one person that they decided to use as the example? Then what are you going to do?
I mean, and talking about California, one of my clients sells he knots bracelets and lots of other stuff. But he does about wholesale about $10,000. If you make wholesale $10,000 into California, right, which is easy if a store buys a lot of products, then you have to have the rules and regulations of California on your website. If your product contains glue, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just, you got to be kidding me, right?
Well, and that's, so important, because they missed that, because that's not only, it does go definitely with California, but let's just talk about affiliate systems really quick. There are so many people that use affiliate links for different things to get money, and on their website, they'll link to these things, and nowhere on their website does it identify that there are affiliate links. And there's actually a regulation that states that you must have a specific disclaimer stating that, your site contains affiliate links so that you're going to get money. And anytime you use those links, you should be stating that, hey, this is an affiliate link and I will be compensated, if you click this link. And so many people just they skirt that. They're like, oh, there's a lot of noise. No one will listen to me.
It takes one person to complain.
One person to be, and you don't want to be the example of that.
And talking about affiliate links and telling people that you benefit from it, I think Facebook is very strict on that, right?
Facebook is, and also there's. I'm looking right now because this was something I was looking at the other day because I had put an email together with an affiliate link in it. And I do this for all of my affiliate links, like whether it's in an email or it's definitely on my website, it's in my terms of services, but it's called the disclosure of material connection. And there's,
that's very good.
That's what it's called. And then there's the accordance, it's Federal Trade Commission's 16 CFR Part 255. Which is the guides concerning the use of endorsements and testimonials in advertising. And, Facebook is a big on that. Amazon, if you're using Amazon links, there's specific disclaimers that you need to put on there. Even like with advertising.
Yes.
Advertising, a lot of people have to say, you were, not holding so responsible. And I don't know why online businesses think this is different from brick and mortar, because if, let's say you're having a physical event, right? If you're having a physical event at a location, typically the event location will ask you for a certificate of insurance, naming them as an additional insured, which then protects them. And so this isn't like this is new stuff. I mean, this stuff has been around forever. It's just been adopted online to adapt to how people are doing business nowadays.
So, and I think what's happening is, and you and I both know what's going on Facebook, but what's in Instagram and all things growing so fast. But I think so many people have online stores right now. So, for instance, with the sales tax and everybody, all the states wanting to claim the sales tax, is because they know there is a lot of money out there that they are not claiming, right? And you can understand it, right? They are losing. I've had a couple of my customers actually give up their retail store and go totally online and then move states, right? So they're losing on the retail aspect of where people are paying taxes and everything. So you can't blame the states for going after that money. Hopefully they'll make it easier for us. But you also got to realize that there are I always say there are so many people online, you are lost in the sea, right? Unless you stand out, you jump out of the water like a dolphin. But even because there's so many people online selling stuff, is they're going to become stricter. Because it can't be like it used to be like the Wild West, and they definitely have to put a stop to price gouging, people getting scammed, all this stuff. They have to start looking after us, but people are complaining about it, right?
And just like the Wild West ultimately was tamed,
I'll have a question.
I know, right? but again, I think it's like going back. It's the essentials in business. I think it boils down to going in with your eyes open. And ignorance is not bliss. I mean, ignorance is not a defense in court. And I always try to think about, like, what do I need in order to protect myself? Would I win?
Yes.
If it goes to this and goes to that. And so we are coming up, believe it or not, we always go through so much time of, we go through our time very quickly whenever Veronica and I start chatting about topics that we're really passionate about. If there were, let's say three or four things or five, how many things you want, Veronica, that you say are like, these are essential in business when you are starting out, what would those items be?
I think make sure you cover yourself with your agreements extremely and read the agreements, right? Make sure that you are copyrighted or trademarked. I know it costs money, but it's always good to have that. And then make sure that you have all your ducks in a row when you're working with your vendors, because you need to know the rules and regulations. Is that enough?
Sure, unless you've got more.
I can go on all day. I've got about a list of 50 things.
Oh,
but
goodness.
just on the legal side, make sure that you do have all those things in place so that you do know what you need to do when you're going online and starting to sell products, and make sure that you protect it, right?
Right. And I think that's so huge. And I want to give a quick disclaimer that, neither Veronica nor I are legal professionals. So you do want to consult with your attorneys and with your, local, maybe small business development center or something like that to make sure that you've got everything in place. But, we're talking from our experience in doing what we do and in working with, hundreds of clients out there and getting them through establishing their businesses and establishing their presences online. So what else were you going to say, Veronica? That was our disclaimer.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we can only talk from experience, and so it's the company. Make sure your company is set up properly, because I mean, if you are going to grow, you have to be more than a solopreneur. Your DBA. Make sure that you have things in place and have a plan. I find that people jump into stuff and they don't have a plan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they
It's
don't
like,
have a plan.
right? They don't have a plan how they're going to get online. They don't have a plan what they're going to create with their company. That they must have a plan. What's the action steps, right? Don't just fall into it.
That's so huge. And if I had to give you, I would say my top 3 things. One, I would say definitely have your agreement. And, you know, I'll tell you that my agreement has grown over the course of the years. I've added things to it, and I've had a lawyer review it and things like that. But, you know, it basically, originally when it started off, it would start off as a document that the top said agreement. And this is an agreement between Claudia and Veronica that we agree to the following things. That I will do this, and in exchange, she's going to give me that, you know. And that seems extremely basic, but it's at least a start, you know. And then make sure that you start to make it grow. You know, let's say you're starting your business tomorrow and you already have a client. Get something in writing. Protect yourself with at least something, a signature that's been dated and, you know, specifically states the intent.
And maybe also is, you know, have them sign off on stuff.
Yes, that's so huge.
Right?
You know, in the service industry, we don't think a lot about that because, you know, and it's true. I mean, we'll sit there and we put in these monthly agreements and we just kind of go under rote and we know what we're doing for the clients and we go from there. But ultimately, you know, there is that claim of, hey, I didn't get it, or maybe that's not what I wanted, or whatever. And so then you have scope creep or a lot of rework. And all of a sudden your value, you are now a $10 an hour employee, which, hey, I mean, kudos to our $10 an hour employees out there. But, you know, after as many hours in the business that Veronica and I have invested in our own education and in doing what we do, $10 an hour, unfortunately, isn't going to cut it. So, you know, if you're aligned with that and $10 an hour doesn't cut it, then you need to make sure that you do get sign-offs or, you know, change of scopes and things like that signed off every step of the way. Veronica, on our final hours, how do you want us to just another little bit more about your program, maybe how they can get information? I don't know if there's a wait list or what that is, but can you maybe share a little bit with that with us?
I was going to be prepared, but I'm not. But if they comment below and let me know, I will give them an assessment on Shopify or in any other store that they have on their website. And it's $47. I'm not charging a lot. There's a few hours, but I love doing it. And then the boot camp is coming up, and I'll have all that information on my page.
Awesome. And so I'm going to go ahead and put a date and a time to that offer, because that way we don't know, 3 years from now. And it's the same thing.
Yes, remember what we just said.
Right, remember what we just said. So I'm going to go ahead looking at my calendar. Today is August 14th, 2018 at 1:57 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where Veronica has made that offer for you. And so just know that depending on when you watch this replay, if you're watching the replay, I don't know if that offer is still valid, but you can always comment below and Veronica will reach out to you.
Absolutely. I love doing it. Thank you for that. I wouldn't have thought of it.
I'm all about disclaimers. All about disclaimers. I am like disclaimer queen here. Always it's such a pleasure to be on here with you, Veronica. I'm going to pop, I think I still have them in our little overlays. I'm not sure. Let's see if I do or I don't. But, okay, that's our names. I don't see it. So I'm just going to say it really quick. Veronica, how would someone get in touch with you or at least follow you on Facebook? It's
Veronica Jeans Mentor on Facebook and veronicajeans.com on my website.
Awesome. And if you like to follow me or you want to get alerts on when we go live, because we go live every Tuesday at 1:00 p.m. Pacific time until further notice, because sometimes things happen. But hey, we've been doing this consistently now. So on Tuesdays at 1:00 Pacific time, join myself, Claudia Sheridan. You can find me on Facebook at Claudia Sheridan 1 is my business page, or you can find me at claudiasheridan.com if you ever want to schedule a free consult and get in touch with me. There you can schedule a call right on claudiasheridan.com. We appreciate you spending the time with us this afternoon. And if you're watching us on the replay, we appreciate you as well. Please leave a comment. Let us know you were here. And we will catch you all later. And that is all for this version of the Marketing Your Passions show. Bye.
Bye.